Hello and welcome to the Agri-Food Pioneers. We're here to give a voice to companies in the agriculture and food industries making a real difference to the environment. Today I'm joined by AgriCalc CEO Scott Davies and agricultural systems modeler Kaya Raxenberg, who together work to create a carbon and efficiency tool that gives you clarity and confidence in reducing emissions. Welcome, Scott. Kaya, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for
having us.
Oh, it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. Lovely to have you along and join the Agri-Food Pioneers family. First off, could you both Scott, maybe you could just start off by telling us a bit about AgriCalc and how it was formed. And then if you could both talk me through your positions in the companies, that would be great.
Yeah, sure. Well, probably I should say AgriCalc. Why AgriCalc as a name? Because people look at it and go, oh, how does that spelling work? So AgriCalc is an agricultural resources calculator, AgriCalc. So, it always helps people go, right. And also hopefully makes people think, okay, so it's a calculator for agricultural resources. So the platform itself and the system has been running for many years. It was part of SRUC, and we have literally just spun it out this year. So we're an independent business now offering a really robust calculator to help farmers in the agricultural industry look at their carbon footprint, emissions, and general resources across the whole farm, and be able to benchmark themselves in the industry to see, how they're performing. And we're actually launching a brand new version of it called AgriCalc Cloud as we speak. So I joined the company as the CEO. I joined this year, January. So this has been an exciting year for me, joining the company and seeing, a historical platform that is helping so many relaunch in a sparkly new cloud-based environment. So, that's great.
Fantastic. Congratulations on the new role, Scott. And Kaya, what's your position at AgriCalc? How long have you been working there? And is it an amazing place to work? Are you transforming the agricultural world?
It's absolutely been an amazing place to work. So as you said, I work on the modeling side of things. So I have more of a scientific background. Originally, I worked in kind of plant ecology and that side of things, but I've got a maths background as well. So that kind of fuses really nicely in a platform like this that's looking at, like you say, environmental sustainability, but it's also quite a lot of modeling and tech in the background. So I work on building the calculator, also kind of developing new add-ons to it and making sure that our methods are really up to date, kind of the most recent research is reflected in our calculator. And then, as Scott mentioned, we've also been developing this exciting new tool. So that's AgriCalc Cloud. So I've been rewriting the calculator and restructuring the database for kind of this new digital age. It's quite an exciting time for us.
Hiya, you sound so busy.
She is
new
so
business.
busy, but we don't like to keep telling her she's busy.
Yeah. Oh, how have you found time to be on this interview? Yeah. Okay. So where's the company's based in Edinburgh? Is that right?
Yeah.
Yes.
But I guess you've got a team all over the place.
Yeah. Well, I think the great thing is, as with everything in this day and age, we're in the cloud, and and it's about providing a software to give remote access. So whilst the team is predominantly based in Edinburgh, we do have people spread out. I mean, I'm personally in the center of the universe. I'm in Manchester, but travel a lot. But from a partner use base or customers, whatever you want to call them, AgriCalc is about providing that wherever you are. So across the UK, but also looking further as well, looking internationally, which is nice.
Great. And are you in Edinburgh, Kaya?
Yeah, I'm based in Edinburgh, in the office now, quite often, which has been fun.
Okay, and I'm just near Bath. So we've got Bath, Manchester, and Edinburgh represented today on the interview. Excellent. So why is AgriCalc here on the podcast? That's the question I sort of ask everyone. Why are you here? And I'm guessing it's the re bit of your name, the resources. I don't know who's best to answer that, but how are managing agricultural resources and calculating all the data behind that, how is that going to be have a positive effect on the environment?
Well, I think, and probably Kyle will give a more detailed and professional response than me. She models obviously everything that's going on behind the scenes, but I think it's about everything you're talking about. In a world where we have to focus on sustainability, we have to focus on managing our resources in a way that will look after longevity of what we do, the core thing that the human race needs, which is food. How do we do that in a way that is looking after the planet? It's helping our farmers, farm in a way that they can do it in a sustainable and an efficient way. And what we're striving to do is say, look, where are you today? What's the benchmark? We're all trying to improve the way in which we're working, lower emissions, show that we're working in a sustainable manner. But if you don't know where you are now, how do you know you've improved things in the future? And that can be looked at in lots of different ways, in different practices across different enterprises in the farm, through to benchmarking yourself in the industry. So if there are like-minded operations, where does my operation stack up in that? And what we're trying to do is say, look, this is a tool for you to get a better handle on all of these areas: your carbon footprint, your emissions, fuel use, energy, to be able to then say, okay, how do I improve this area, and how will that benefit my operation? We're all being told we've got to do things better, but if we can do it in a sustainable way that benefits the farming operation, then we're doing a good job, right? We're helping the industry. We're not trying to throw something else in and say, you've now got to do things differently this way because the government say this or the retailers say that. It's about looking at your operation now and making sure you're working in the best way possible.
Great.
Yeah, and I think a really big part of that is having advice that's tailored to you and information that's tailored to you. We know that farms are incredibly complex. And so when we're talking about how do we move towards a more sustainable system, something that works for one farm won't necessarily work for the other. So a big part of having this farm model that you put your own data into and get results that are tailored to your farm back, we're able to provide that kind of tailored advice off the back of that. I also think, like, in terms of the aims of this podcast, it's very much in line with our ethos of we're providing farmers with the information that they can use to create a positive narrative around, their journey towards low carbon farming. There's been a lot of negative press in this area, and farmers are really hesitant to kind of talk about emissions, but providing them with the tools to, create their own story, I think is really important.
Yes, we found we're kindred spirits.
There you go.
United for the common cause. Excellent news. Excellent news. So your customer is farmers, is that right?
I think at the core, yes. That's where our data is, being put in and giving results. Our customers also go across the wider food chain. So, that is going down from the farmers, the processors, the retailers, even banking, finance, because everybody's got an interest, maybe a slightly different interest, but it all comes down to supporting the farmers at the core level.
And I know you touched upon it, but can you drill down into a little bit more about what you actually test for at AgriCalc? Do your customers do the testing themselves and input the data? How does the process work, and what are you testing for?
So we measure by default the type, source, and extent of all major greenhouse gas emissions on the farm. So it's like a full carbon footprint. To create that carbon footprint, we're using data that's kind of readily available to a farm manager in their farm records. Who puts that into the system kind of varies. So it could be the individual farmer. If they're interested, it might be a consultant that's working with them. Like Scott said, they might be part of a wider industry group as well. But in addition to that carbon footprint, we're also providing, like Scott said, that benchmarking information that allows you to put those figures in context. And then we're also providing some kind of efficiency metrics, so you can understand the impact of your farm more from like a productivity standpoint. So it's not just the environmental side, it's also business efficiency that we're looking at. So hence that resource part of the name there.
Great. So, I mean, ultimately, that's going to save people money, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So
I mean, that's a big thing. And yeah, to pick up on, it's not one of those things that people pick up on straight away, but yeah, there is a big cost saving element to this. It's not just about looking at the metrics, it's where it can literally save you money or make you money.
Yeah, well, that's what I do a lot of filming with farmers, and all I know is they want to save any kind of cost they can save is a massive one. They will go straight for that, and if you can save them time, then they'll be even happier. Is your software some way going to save farmers time? How could it do that?
That's a very interesting question. So in terms of the data input process, it's been in the past like a series of hours that you need, probably like 2 hours to input your data. You get a wealth of information off the back of that. But if you're a farmer, you tend to be wildly busy. So it is quite a lot of time. What we're moving towards in this like new cloud-based platform is a more automated data flow. So we're able to take in information that's already available through like farm management software and then provide a carbon footprint off the back of that. So we remove that time cost that we're talking about. So it's a really exciting time for that.
That's so clever. So like APIs linking.
Exactly.
Smart. Like it.
It's a new age. Yeah.
We've talked a little bit about sort of the sectors that you work in. Can you give us a bit more information about that?
Yeah, so I mean, it's the wider agri-food sector. So we currently are able to provide carbon footprints and those efficiency metrics for all of the major farm enterprises in the UK and kind of the wider EU as well. So this includes livestock and cropping enterprises as well. But we've also been working on kind of smaller projects internationally. I think Scott mentioned that. So we have some projects going on in the Americas and also, like I mentioned, wider Europe. So we've been adding some crazy crops recently, sugarcane, which we wouldn't have thought of at all when we started the project, and like kiwi berries. I had never heard of a kiwi berry.
I haven't.
Wow. Quite a variety of enterprises. Yeah.
So the software is versatile.
There you go.
Yeah, great.
I mean, I think that's one of the things we're excited to get the new platform, because the whole point of having that new platform and cloud is the demands of what people want from it, and we have to have something that we can build on. And we know what we want today, but we're driven by what customers are saying to us moving forward. And as we sort of expand into new territories, as you say, that new crops, things like that, new ways of working, new results that we get through the sort of scientific side, research side, we've got to keep building on that platform to make it as cutting edge as possible and supportive as possible.
Absolutely. Now, I've had a quick look on your website. I noticed there were packages. Everyone likes packages these days. They like tiers. Tell us a bit more about those. What does each package, just briefly, what does each package kind of offer?
So essentially there's two core packages, even though you'll say there's three.
Oh, was there two?
No. What I would clarify is the two core packages are, there's a free package. You can go online and you can get your basic reports, and then there's a premium side to that, where you can start to get your benchmarking results, get detailed information. The third package is more about a group portal. So you might be managing multiple farms and want to be able to look at all that data in one account. So whilst it doesn't give you particularly anything different than the premium one, you are managing it across multiple farms. So you may be a consultancy, You may be an organization that wants to have multiple farms on there. It may be a project where farmers say, I want my data to be available in this project. And that becomes more of a group package.
Okay, so are there any other common things that your customers ask of you?
Yeah, I think there's a couple things. I think one of the big things is we have individual farmers and groups of farmers who've had quite a lot of contradictory information about kind of their climate impact, the climate impact of farming. And so there's kind of a big ask around the education, around the science. That's a really big part of what we do, that sort of education piece. And like I said earlier, that tailored information that comes out of AgriCalc is really helpful, I think, in providing farmers with information. And, knowledge is power. They can go back to the people that they work with that information to hand in climate change conversations, which can be quite difficult conversations for farmers.
Yeah. Is
Yeah.
it reasonably easy to understand?
Yeah.
Is
and
it?
It's been a big part actually of the move towards the cloud platform, is developing their reports to be even more intuitive. So trying to make them as visual as possible, trying to provide guidance around them. Yeah, absolutely.
All right, good. Absolutely brilliant. So what would you say is different about AgriCalc to your competitors? What are your points of difference? Anything in particular spring to mind?
The best. I had to do that. No, I don't like saying things like that. But no, I think one of the things that I think sets us apart is, one, we're about the whole farm. This is about looking across the whole farm. So you get a really good analysis of what your operation is doing. It's very important to see all aspects of the farm being incorporated into this to give you better knowledge. And I think from where we've come from SRUC side, we're very much backed by science. We are led by science, and we're led by research to try and keep the information that we're providing at the highest standard that we can. And that's an evolving element to the business. It's not just a calculation that's done but based on static maths metrics. There is research continually being poured into the platform to make sure that we are striving to be at the top of the game all the time. And with the new platform, it's about then bolting on these modules as the marketplace changes.
Fantastic. Well, it sounds just contemporary, ever-changing, or dynamic. Sounds like you've thought of everything. And how is your testing adding value to farmers and the agricultural industry, would you say?
Yeah, I think it goes back to those conversations that farmers and industry actors are having kind of increasingly. There's top-down pressure from government around climate change targets, and there's bottom-up pressure from consumers. So kind of arming the industry with really good, high-quality information to come to those conversations with, I think, is really important. In addition to that, like we talked about, having that tailored model to then use to make decisions to reduce emissions on the farm, and then through that monitoring, bring kind of a positive story to those industry conversations. So we've been adding new mitigation measures into the tool. So now you can add things like methane inhibitors that you're feeding cattle onto the farm, or you can test a scenario like that. Say, oh, what would happen if I did this on my farm? Oh, for me, that would really substantially reduce my emissions. Maybe that's something I should think about, depending on the pressures that I'm facing. So it's valuable
great.
from that
So
standpoint.
before you even have to invest in any kind of kit, you can run it through the calculator and see the effect it would have. That's incredible. Okay, bit of a podcast tradition. We always ask anyone who appears on the podcast, sort of, how can our viewers, anyone who's watching this, how can they help you accelerate your journey and your success? Because obviously you're doing something very good for the environment, for the farmers of the UK, providing that cushion in between the top down and bottom up pressure. And so how can our viewers help you?
I think talk about us. I think it's getting awareness out there, really, trying to explain to people what we're trying to do and how we're trying to help the industry. You know, this is not out trying to be a sales pitch. I'll be honest. You know, what we're trying to do is get the tools in the hands of the farmers, and you'll see on the site. You know, the cost is to, you know, is small. We're trying to get it into the hands of people, because what we want to do is get more users. So if you're viewing this and it's relevant to you, sign up, use the free version if you want. You know, the more data that we can get in, the more we can help people by talking about benchmarking it and providing more information. And it's a growth journey. The more people that get involved and talk about it, you know, get online, register, it just helps the wider audience. So, you know, that's my point of view. Kaya, you might have a different.
No, it's the same. And, you know, if you do sign up, if you use the free version, any feedback we can get from industry users is incredibly valuable. It's allowed us to develop the forms in a way that really suits user data. So kind of any feedback we can get from actual users is really valuable to us.
Oh, well, I hope you get a lot of new users off the back of this. I really do. And it's free. I mean, as a starting point, that's fantastic. And feedback, I'm sure, is very valuable too. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Kaya and Scott.
Thanks so much for having us, Nigel. That's been great.
It's a real pleasure. So subscribe now and click the bell so you're notified when we speak to more pioneers of the agri-food industry that are leading the way to a sustainable, low carbon and regenerative future. Thanks for watching. Are you an agri-food pioneer? Get in touch now to arrange your interview.